bridges that take that early stage research all the way towards a technology startup and bridge something called the innovation chasm. And this funnel is what we predominantly put a lot of builders through to help them succeed. It runs from education to hackathons, through grants, accelerators, and investment. And so we really are working on the back of hackathons here with builders that want to turn their project into a product, then eventually into an MVP, and then finally for that MVP to find a product market fit and then grow. So we have a lot of amazing partnerships, including with ETH Global, that enable builders to succeed on this journey. And you can ask, several hundred teams that we've supported, or the 50 teams that have started in education and gone through the entire funnel, which has been really amazing. And several of these teams are, like Lighthouse and Powerloom, are actually now sponsors at ETH Global events. So it's amazing to see them now giving back as the next generation. So here's where this gets really fun. Web3, a lot like Bonnie Tyler, definitely needs more heroes. I feel very passionate about this, and so I want to tell you the story of a bit of a legend in the Protocol Labs Builders Funnel network, and it's a story of a team that you might know. It's the story of the world's first decentralized real-time hugging communication, Cuddle01. So for those in the audience who don't know, this is a bit of a play on Huddle01, which is a decentralized RTC network in the PL network. But I'm going to tell you their story through the hero's journey. So we have our first act, Act 1, it's the departure. There is an ordinary world, and once upon a time in a land near to here, there were two young, humble visionaries. Our first hero, Ayush Baggins, and our second, Samwise Susmit. Ayush was found in Uttar Pradesh. He was nearly banished to Scotland of all places to study behavioral economics. He started reading about Bitcoin, learning a bit of Solidity, and wanted to go on an adventure. Susmit, our second hero, is in Rajasthan. He is an early dev at one of India's largest decentralized exchanges, and he himself is looking for more of a purpose, something that's more closely aligned to Web3. And they're both big fans of hugging. So what should they do? Well, one day, one of our heroes learns about two transformative technologies, IGFS and Feelcoin. IGFS is a peer-to-peer networking layer for the hug experience, and Feelcoin is a crypto-powered oxytocin storage network. Now, we all know the founder of this. We heard the founder speak yesterday. It was, of course, the real Juan Benet, who's actually a Spanish novelist from the earliest 20th century. So we get our call to adventure. We've now moved to the second stage of our hero's journey. One of our heroes goes through the global pandemic and sees actually the need for hugging is so much worse than I thought. The existing RTCs that we have are ineffective delivery mechanisms for me to be able to hug. So how do we make that more reliable, secure, and safe? He was in search of a co-founder. He looked up every single Solidity developer at his alumni university, and it turns out at that time there were two. One of those was our other hero. So boldly, Ayush reaches out via LinkedIn, and if anyone has ever tried to get a response on that platform, you'll know how difficult that would be. Susmit hasn't checked his LinkedIn in maybe 3 years, but at that moment he was called to say, actually, maybe I should see what's happening, and finds this message. And they come together and they get accepted for Hug FS, which is run, as we all know, by Hug Global and our favorite character, Arwen of the Council of Elrond. Now, I have approval from Kartik to show this visual to you, which I think is really quite stunning, I think is the only word. But HugFS at that time, a few years ago, was really, really difficult. There was blood, there was sweat, there was tears, and there was also lots of hugging. And so our heroes eventually submitted, like many hackers will do tomorrow, their prototype. It was really cool, and it was called Cadbury. Now, this name has not been changed for fictional purposes. It was generally called Cadbury, which is a very bold play if you're going to go out and launch a product with a large company with very strong legal expertise. Now, sadly, our heroes were unsuccessful, and they were not finalists at HugFS. So they've sweated away for 36 hours, but unfortunately, they were not one of the finalists. And that's the end of the story. For some builders, maybe, but not for our heroes, because they have naturally got some doubts. Will people use this thing? Are we the right people to build it? Will it find future growth? And the wider hug industry was also facing a really harsh winter. It was really in a squeeze. That was a hug pun for everybody. But don't worry, because our heroes have a mentor. And just as when they were thinking, maybe we shouldn't do this, a number of wild mentors appeared in the form of so many different individuals. There was Andrew from Textile One, another early company building, Mark at IGFS Shipyard, and so many more. And these mentors making up the Fellowship of the Thing, which is a sneaky IPFS reference for anyone out there. We have Molly, the daughter of McKinley. We have Kolegolas Evran, and we have Gabriel, son of Taklorin, all of whom are crucial in providing expert support to our heroes. And finally, we have Elrond David Diaz. And he, in Elrond in Lord of the Rings, if you know this quote, "Let him not vow to walk in the dark who has not seen the nightfall," I think is probably the best advice that's ever been uttered to any founder out there trying to build a startup alone. Indeed, this was a really important moment for our heroes and indeed anyone building a startup. Getting that validation from people who've been there before and can offer you some solid advice and give you the enthusiasm and confidence to keep building and experimenting is absolutely crucial when you're building early technology. So while they weren't a finalist, they hustled, they secured $40,000 in funding, which is amazing, in grants, and they also got accepted onto the Hypothetical Particle Accelerator by Consensus Labs. So that's Act 1. Our heroes have now seen the call to adventure and they're leaving the known world to the unknown world. Now, our heroes take the plunge, and so the building of this prototype actually starts to begin. And as we all know, anything is possible when you have a whiteboard and 2 bottles of water. And indeed, adding our heroes in for extra spice, this is going to be amazing. Our journeys face our heroes faced many tests, many allies and many enemies along their journey. Many said, well, this won't work out. I'm instead going to put my money into more reputable founders. And indeed, we should have a moment of silence for all of the people that decided to make those particular decisions at that time. Indeed, there were also many allies, and those advocates brought their angels and other allies, and they assembled even more supporters to support our heroes on their journey. And sadly, there were competitors. This is open source. This is exciting. This is where innovation really comes from. You know, hedge hugs was an alternative that was being built at the time. Very similar. So our heroes show no signs of slowing down on the accelerator. They are really shipping week after week, workshop after workshop, fireside chat after fireside chat, and really learning to become startup founders, which is where accelerators are really, really useful for many folks going through their startup journey. Now, our heroes eventually came to a really pivotal moment in their adventure, and that was navigating investor conversations, which anyone who has ever tried to raise money knows is extremely difficult. But despite the real complexity of raising all of those conversations, there was a faint noise that became louder and louder, and it was the ping of Slack. Of course, it was Juan Dauf the White, the founder of IGFS and Philcoin, who was there to help our heroes bear the burden and navigate fundraising preparations. A really pivotal moment in the journey of our heroes. Finally, demo day is upon them, and they ship an amazing product to much positive feedback after applying everything they'd learned over the past 8 weeks on the accelerator. Indeed, there was continued skepticism and non-believers, but even with that negativity, our heroes persisted because they had the support of our mentor, our Juan Dauf the White, who told many VCs when they were unsure if they were going to invest, "You shall not pass on this round." That actually took me quite a long time to figure out, but I really like that. So eventually, there's our reward. Our heroes battle on. They can finally see everything that they've been working on. They're persevering step by step, and eventually they raise a super impressive $1.7 million pre-seed round from some leading investors across the space and beyond. And they have a really, really cool product. And the success is theirs and theirs alone. No, it's not. Go away. Finally, we have our return. Our heroes are successful. They have money in their belt. They have wisdom in their minds. Finally, 2 immediate parts of business. On the business side, they changed their name. Cadbury's legal team, way too strong. And secondly, they started to hire designers, engineers, and this was really difficult. They went through 200 interviews just to find 2 front-end engineers and 1 back-end dev. Secondly, it's now all about the product, which if anyone who's ever built a startup knows is incredibly crucial. You need to really get this right. So they actually reimagined their product away from education to become a Web3 native layer. They added additional functionality where users were saying, I want to have privacy, I want to have NFTs as my avatars on video calls for hugging, obviously. And then they responded to their users and integrated with other technology like FVM, Philcoin Very Magic, which offers programmable persistent hugs, among other things. We now have our resurrection. Our heroes apply this newfound knowledge, capital and networks. They travel the world. They go to Singapore, they go to the US, San Francisco and beyond, and they and their newfound team raise an amazing seed round. Or so they thought, because sadly, just as when they thought we've got amazing validation of our product, amazing early users, and additional support, a terrifying beast emerged in the form of the bear market, which, as we all know, is always conjured up by some sort of evil magic. This definitely changed the game for our heroes, sadly. But the most dangerous part is that investors would no longer accept the terms of the SAFC, which is the Simple Agreement for Future Hugs. And so if our heroes really wanted to come out on top here on their journey home, they would need to emerge successfully. And they did so. They raised $3 million seed rounds. And this is one of our founders co-founding another Web3 protocol called NapDAO after closing the last investor documentation. So there we have the final chapter of the return. Our heroes complete their return to the homeland. And since then, they've gone on to become real supporters of the technology and the people that help them on their entrepreneurial journey. They've supported hackathons, they've hosted their own, they've become ambassadors, and indeed, they've hosted a conference. And earlier this week, they had the second ever Phil Bangalore. But most importantly, they themselves now are the new mentors to the next generation of startups. Effectively, for any builders in the audience, these folks then become your Elrond counsel for your journey and your adventure. And that is indeed the mythical story of Cuddle 01. Now, I have two final parting pieces of advice. Number one, working in startups does not mean that you have to become a founder. There are so many different journeys that you can end up here. You can become a core dev or operator at a startup, absolutely. You can join a Web3 company or one of the companies in the Protocol Labs network as an early founding team member, or you can just contribute to open source projects. And we've just launched the Protocol Labs Dev Guild earlier this week, which is an open source software support program. It's a cohort based and it's for Indian devs first in 2024. It's really exciting. And then secondly, big things have small beginnings. This week marks the 10th anniversary of the first ever IPFS commit. And Juan on stage yesterday, for those of you who were here, noted this, and this is a beautiful moment because then you can see how far technology becomes and all the networks and value that is subsequently created on top. So it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, starting now is the best thing you can possibly do. So what are you waiting for? Get started on your journey, become your own hero, and we'd love to help. Thank you so much. Free hugs. Yeah, I should have said that, and it's free hugs for everybody. Sorry if I, yeah, I'm very stupefied.
No worries.
I'm very sorry.